Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Today's broadcast is about 100% proof that you are a tenant in your own home. In order to follow what I'm about to tell you and show you as part of the evidence is that you must have these two documents which can be found on my website, which you see being scrolled at the bottom. So if you don't have it, go to my website and download it so you're not disadvantaged by this presentation. Even though I speak of 100% proof, the percentages are actually much more greater than that, because irrespective of whether you are in some sort of a mortgage tie or a mortgage agreement, or if you are an outright owner of your own home, you are still listed as a tenant, albeit it is in the conventional Babel language, and hence my court system has superiority over Babel language. The documents that I'm using as evidences are all real documents. Some of them were given to me by the judges, the Federal First Court judges that are with you at this moment, to show you the things that are in plain sight are not made up. They're in your possession by now. And I have done it in such a way, the presentation that is, that I have done it in terms of numbering, which means I will walk you through this document to the 30 points or so that you have to know even in conventional language. Now, what is important is that I am not exclusively sticking with parse or syntax. I am generally educating you as to the precarious position that you are in at this moment, being in a house that you thought you owned within the deed of trust. So the first document that we're going to be looking at was sent to us, and it is one in hundreds about a complaint that he wanted to launch with my office, or my position is the correct word. And I've listed that as number one. And I'm going to be very methodical, and I'm going to go through this document in a slow and concise fashion as I possibly can, so everybody can keep up with us. These documents are from several continents, not just US or Canada or be it the UK. They're from Australia, from US, UK, and a variety of other places. So, let's look at number one. Number one on the document is in a box. Now, this explanation you must comprehend. This is a four-corner rule. You can see that. It's a four-corner rule. It's got four corners. When you are given rights, you have more than one right of a document because it's a plural of rights. But if you're given a right of way, that means that you have one corner of the document and somebody else controls all other four. When you have, like this document has, another box within a box, that's an entirely different document. That's called boxing laws. That is why the games that you play in the courtrooms and stuff have boxes, and every single box has its own set of rules, which you must understand and must know. So if you have 15 boxes here within one document, one A4 piece of paper, essentially what you have is 15 different types of rules, and you don't know what game is being played in each box. if you look upon a playing field, you will see the playing field is rigged up to do everything from baseball, as well as play football, as well as chuck a javelin, and a multitude of other field sports. That's what these documents are. And when you go out of court, you're out of order, as in a ball falling out of court. Those are the in-depth explanation as to what the violation of the four-corner rule is. And in that sense, I think this number 1 can now come to an end. Let us move on to number 2. And it is this document that you need. This particular one is from the US. And there it says, and I'm breaking down what these words mean, deed. Well, what is a deed? Well, deed means that is written and signed, delivered by just one person. It's a contract, and the minimum of persons you need, or people, or men and women, to make a contract is, of course, 2, like a marriage. Otherwise, it's just a love letter to myself, writing to myself. You understand that rather comical analogy? If I am writing the terms and conditions of my own behavior, we call that a diary that I write. And that's what a deed is. It's essentially one person signing something without anybody else. That's what a deed is. It's what they call a unilateral agreement. Uni meaning one-way agreement, contract. That's what deed is. And you've got to understand that, because without contract, that means parties coming together. It's just a unilateral agreement. It's just a love letter that they are writing to themselves in conventional language. And so I'm focusing on just one word at a time rather than the passe or the syntax. I'm choosing it as a pronoun, which is a substitute for a title or a name. It's like calling New York the Big Apple. Well, the Big Apple is the Big Apple. It's only presumption and assumption, which assumes that I'm speaking about New York. Presumption and assumption. Let's look at number 3. Trust. Deed of trust. Well, trust, ladies and gentlemen, the minimum people that you need to create a trust in the conventional world is 3 people. You being one of them. And you need 2 other people, like the witnesses on your live life claim. What they're essentially saying here, this is a one-way agreement. It's a one-way unilateral agreement. That's a trust. That's oxymoron, ladies and gentlemen. That's like saying Father, Son, and something else is missing. That's another way of expressing trust law. I suggest you look up trust law. Certainly I've done many lectures on it. And in conventions, you need 3 people, you being one of them. You are already starting to see how forensics works. And even though this presentation may last well over an hour, this only represents less than 1% of the knowledge of a federal postal court judge, let alone a chief federal postal court judge. Less than 1%. And already this document is starting to break down, because that's all it is. It's gibberish. When you have the word security instrument, what that means is that it's being safeguarded or secured, like me taking this document, and by the way, this is more factual than you can imagine, and putting it away into a safe, which is what they're supposed to do. So that's one way of creating a security cordon around these documents. They're supposed to be in a safe, so they can't be deleted, like you can with soft copies. And if the creators of these mortgage systems are scanning it in as deletable, I wonder why. Could it be so they don't get caught out of their fraudulent conveyance of language? You think about it, ladies and gentlemen, what security instruments are. Number 5, borrower. What does borrower mean? You've got to get your perspectives right now. Borrower means, just as the pronoun stands, that it is you that went to somebody else voluntarily to ask for something. That's very important. You've got to know that you went to ask for something. So if you went to your neighbor and you borrowed a cup of sugar, you become the borrower. You've got to understand this. This is not an offer from your next door neighbor offering you a cup of sugar. As we go along, you will see a bigger picture being drawn right before your eyes. At the last line of the document that you're looking at, these are two people involved, a husband and a wife. Even though I cannot show the names fully, they are written in full capitals. However, the other name on the other documents, I will show who it is, and that's in all capitals. Now, listening to the lectures that I have provided so many times to use, you know that the Roman mechanism, which stands today, the bureaucracy of writing a dead person's name, is to all capitalize it, like decapitating. When you decapitate a person, you put their name in all capitals. These are the evidences that are right before your eyes. If it's in all capitals, they're dealing with you as nom de guerre, as a dead entity, as a dead man, a dead woman. And here you see foul practice is starting to take place, more foul than I've mentioned. That sentence alone should be enough for you to get angry. It should be enough for you to pick up that pen and start asking questions or launch that complaint. Just visit my website. It's as simple as that. And both the husband and wife are recognized in all capital letters, which means the husband and wife have perished, died. What does it say on number 7? It says joint tenants. Well, that could quite easily refer to the husband and wife living there. Of course it can. But that will be presumption and assumption. We can't just presume that you know what a tenant is. And what a tenant means is that you are renting that home. Hold on a minute. Let's get some logic in here. The husband and wife, even though they're nom de guerre, are listed here as tenants. Not that the husband is a tenant or the wife is a tenant. They're both listed here as tenants. So if they're both listed here as tenants, under this knowledge that I've given you about tenancy, they're renting the home. That's what it's more or less telling you. Tenant, in their own fictional world, have two types, secured and assured. One is as absurd as the other. Security means that you have less of a tenancy security, which is an oxymoron. And you have assured tenancy, which is supposed to give you even greater protection. in the world of passe, assured means no assurances. That's passe, which I'm not going to talk about as of yet. Now that we know both the people are being listed here as tenants, the husband and the wife, and yet they paid for their home. Wow. The borrower. What does the borrower mean? The borrower is you going to somebody to collect something. That's what borrower means. A person that borrows something. The lender is the person that's giving it up. Remember, I'm only talking about the individual words. What they mean in conventional, everyday presumption and assumption. And you've got to understand that relationship. The lender is not offering. The lender is being approached by somebody, and they are listing that as the lender, which means it's not an offer. It's not an offer, because if it was an offer, it would mean something else. You've got to understand that they are saying that you voluntarily went into tenancy, that you voluntarily went there to ask them for something just to be a tenant. And the deposit that you put down on your house, well, that's just a deposit for your rent. But the spirit in which these documents were created, they cannot escape that. It was created to take something away from you, to move you into a position of ownership, into a tenancy. That's foul practice. Foul practice voids contract. You break your word, you break contract. You understand that. You understand adultery. And adultery can take place on paper as well. The word California, not in upper and lower case, as we conventionally do to signify that it's land territory, but they have it in all capitals. And what does all capitals mean? Nom de guerre, or it's a corporate instrument. So if you want to turn yourself into a corporate instrument, all you have to do is write it in all capitals name. If you want to be recognized as a dead person, you just have to write your name, voluntarily of course, as a dead person. Simple as that. We're now going on to another certificate of title, which is essentially identical to the one that you've been looking at. And this is from Australia, from one of the judges. He volunteered the document as to show you that this is not just restricted to the US, Canada, or Europe, but it goes all the way to the southern hemispheres. The mechanism of the fraud is virtually identical in every country in the world, because the people that perpetrate this fraud are one gigantic group, all known to each other by first name, middle name, and probably their surnames. Not Christian name, of course, or family name, or a clan name, probably by surname. And we'll go on to that later on. So, what does a certificate mean? You've got to understand every single word. An Australian certificate means that it's an instrument that has been witnessed by another party, as in a certificate of your qualifications. And it's a certificate of entitlement. Means that yours on paper, witnessed parties. It's essential, a statement of fact, like making a statement of fact to the police that you are a witness. And if you give false witness, that's an imprisonable sentence. That's telling lies on your fellow man. That's a crime. Number 13. Now, this is very interesting. That essentially is the flag of this document. And within that flag is a whole heap of story. I'm not going to stay with it too long, but essentially what happened is when all the chieftains, and you may know them as fiefdoms, the planetary fiefdoms, when they came together, what they agreed upon is that they're going to essentially sell the lands that does not belong to them, as well as the people, the men and women. And they did that many hundreds of years ago. Hence this word, fiefdoms. Proof of which is on my website, including their bank accounts. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, including their bank accounts. And whatever absurd figures that they are. We don't have words for 45 zeros at the end of a bank account. I can't exactly call it a quadrillion, trillion, billion, whatever it is. Don't have a word for it. And they're not even the largest players on this planet. In that flag, what it says, what it's doing is that the crown, the lion, which is essentially African, that's an African lion, is making contract with the chieftains and the fiefdoms, if you like, of Australia. What we used to call Aborigines, who aren't actually natives. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, those wonderful programs that you see about how Aboriginal people, how African people, how European people have been victimized and bloodied by wars and stuff, were all done by your own fiefdoms. So when you see those victimhood movies of how the Red Indians or the Aborigines were hard done by, yes, they were, but it was all done with the permission of your fiefdoms. And that will take you into South Africa as well. Like Mandela. Did you guys know that he was a prince? Do you know those people, or the documents that are on my website, are fiefdoms? In other words, they're chiefs. Why do you think that they have a chief commoner? Think about it. These people control the minerals, the water, the land, by your consent. Do not ever allow yourself to be convinced that you are a victim of any race, any level of bigotry. It was first done to you by your own people. Hold them account. And all of you European people, hold them account. And all you so-called African people who think you are African Americans, which you are not, you are natives, hold them account. For all of those American Indians, as it were, in conventional language, who are native, hold your chiefs accountable. All of these movies that you've been watching is to drag you away from one fact. Consent law stands supreme, and since they are your chiefs, they speak for you because you gave up your power. Take it back. If you don't, you will be constantly being sold and hoodwinked and lied to. And if you are a native Australian, the land is yours. Tell the chief to get lost. Tell him to vacate his position because you no longer give consent. The symbol that you're looking at inside that flag, that logo, is essentially telling you the chieftains of Australia, the natives, are making contract with the British Lion. That's what they're saying. The British, as it were, are just the fall guys. making you believe that they are the almighty bad boys doing bad things all over the planet. Ladies and gentlemen, they never bypassed your chieftains, the people that have your trust. It is paramount that you take it away from them. As I walk you through these documents, you will see that in plain sight. You will see the heroes that you've been worshipping all your life, whether that would be that character out of South Africa, or that loin-wearing person out of India, or that red Indian chief that wears those eagle feathers, or the Australian chiefs that make you feel as if they were victimized. What was done to you by your own people. This includes England, this includes Ireland, and so many of the countries that we know of. Number 14, and I think I've spoken quite a lot about number 13 as well, as I got a little bit carried away because I do get emotional. I do apologize. We have a word called fee simple. A fee simple, pronoun, two words standing by itself. Let's join it together. It's a fee, which means there's money involved. And it's simple, which means it's a simple process of exchange of money. Fee simple, when brought together as two words, essentially means that it has total possession of the land, including mineral rights, digging for water, oil, whatever it is. But of course, as it does not violate public safety, which stands paramount. Can't be digging oil wells in an area that you can easily pollute the aquifer, for example. But the point is, it gives you total dominance. But of course, the fee simple can't possibly apply to you. It can only apply to who? Who can it apply to? Could it be a fiefdom? Could it be that you need to look up the word chief commoner, as in common law, chief as in fiefdom, and find out that they have access to you and mineral rights? It is they, the chieftains, that can claim fee simple, complete and utter dominance of the land. And you are nothing more than a tenant. That's on paper. That's on forensics. And you can't escape my eyes on this. A folio is a very simple word. It means it's a bounded document, like a book. Or like a filofax. I remember that from the 80s and 90s. I used to use them myself. That in itself is quite telling, because if it's a bounded document, why isn't it exactly bounded? I thought a book was a book because it's got a bind on it. Anything that does not have a bind are loose pieces of paper. Full stop. Number 16. The word general or registrar general, which is actually in reverse. Registrar is like a registered post sticker. General is not like the general manager of your Sears or the general manager of a supermarket. It's a military position, protected and controlled by the military, the Navy. Why do you think the old tax collectors were generals? Think about it. So we are not dealing with civilian matters here. We are dealing with a matter of military. The seal, number 17. The seal. The seal that you see on the top, virtually on the top right-hand corner. Well, seals that don't have a registered number can't be tracked. It can't be a proper seal. Where's it from? To me, it's just a cartoon. It holds no explanation. Does it have footnotes trying to explain itself what that seal is? Or could it possibly be it's assuming that you would assume and presume that it has some great authority? In terms of documentations, ladies and gentlemen, the seal that you're seeing, where you are looking at, right here, is the only true seal. It's the only one that carries any weight. Number 18. Interesting word. Parish council, which means it's church lands. And if you look at the other document that is on the bottom of our website, on the front page, look up church lands, lost and dead at sea. Parish councils. It's an interesting word because parish with an A is exactly the same as parish with an E. Dead people. What do you think a church is? Go into a church. It's a Noah's Ark, upside down, signifying to your subconscious mind that knows about these things, because it's a higher processing unit of your neural network, telling it openly that Noah's Ark capsized and the souls in it were dead. That's what it means. It's a play on the vowels, which are the basis of all languages, A, U, I, U, in Latin. The English language has a few more. Other cultures have other vowels. But the A, E, I, O, U is the Latin that is mostly common. Remember what I said to you. Parish with an A and parish with an E are one and the same. It's a change, a play on the vowels. Vowels rather than consonants. Number 19. This is an Australian instrument and it's got Hugh, who volunteered this information, who's a Chief Federal Postal Court judge, who now has powers, of course, to stop and correct them. And this isn't a deed of trust, bureaucracy that you have to go to get your documents, to have these proofs, showing you they have the audacity, who bought his house in good faith and good honor, is a dead entity. And if it's a dead entity, it's a lost and at sea, which means it's trust law. That means somebody else is controlling his estate, which I'll come on to. But you can quite literally see that his name is in all capitals. Well, as Federal Postal Court judges and Chief Federal Postal Court judges, we can control the all caps name as well. So, you all know what is right in front of you, that it is an all caps name, and you can't escape what it means. Just look at the gravestone. And because it's in all capitals, and of course Hugh is still around, is not dead exactly, in Australia, he now knows that there is a trustee put in place. And there comes some more examples. If there's a trustee, well, how comes they didn't let themselves know? Rather derelict, isn't it, of an executor and an administrator not to let themselves know. Did they ever take out an ad in the newspaper to say, oh, we're looking for this character called Hugh. We presume and assume as he's been dead and lost at sea, so will he come forward and his relatives come forward? Did they take out a newspaper article like that? Certainly in the olden days they used to, because when you had your birthday they used to try to put it into all capitals. When you had a births and deaths record, they put your name in all capitals. Such foul practice is foul practice, ladies and gentlemen. And I am trying to keep this conversation as light as possible so you can follow the logic of it. But you need to know, foul practice has taken place. The evidence is right before your eyes. I am not making these things up. I am showing you forensics evidence. Pick this paper up, read it, get your pen out, and know that the pen is mightier than the sword, and you will find many things will collapse, and you will become the beneficiary. Number 20. What do we see here, this word again? As joint tenant. Oh, well, it's not two people that's got the mortgage, death pledge. So who is this other party called a tenant? Don't you think that everybody here that is sharing this video with everybody else, do you not think that you owe it to yourself? Do you not think you owe it to yourself to find out who that other mysterious tenant is? What do you think is going to happen when South Africa finds out who that tenant is? Perhaps they will have a Mandela moment. Or perhaps even a Nelson's column moment. Surely the Mandela effect is global. What do you think is going to happen when they realize there's only one person that can claim that position, and that's the chieftain? Why do you think I'm good at cracking these codes? Because I follow the logic. I follow the common denominator. Your royal families are not your friends. They're the ones that sold you, who live off your sweat equity. Well, how else do you think these people could possibly do what they do? They are worthless. They've never done a day's work. I suggest South Africa, those people that have been hero worshipping a particular person, and I suggest for those Indians out there that have been hero worshipping a particular person that wears a loincloth, or used to, or the US people that have liked to hero worship the Kennedys and the rest of them, you find out who they are. Find out what the word esquire means. Find out how you address a citizen of London. Find out where the lawyers are domiciled. Find out what the Foreign Agents Act is in the US. And you'll quickly come to understand you're being pulled in by foreigners. You're being claimed upon by foreigners that are foreign to your customs, and that are foreign to yourself, and that are foreign to your house. Number 21. It says end of certificate. When I thought the movie ended, it was end. But then we got some more writing. You can't ignore it. If a certificate is the end, it must have nothing below it. And it doesn't matter if it's an addition from the deed of trust organizations or the bureaucracies. You cannot put anything at the end of a document where it says end. I think that should be very clear. So, essentially, when you do have other wordings that are after the word end, it's an open-ended contract. Open-ended means it's still under negotiation. Sometimes I get carried away at the level of deception. Do you know how ignorant we must have been in our past to accept this as anything of a factual title or a deed, or anything else, trust violation, whatever it is. Do you know the millions and the millions that are out there that have been hoodwinked? Those poor souls who can't obviously read and write. Until I decided to teach myself under David Wayne Miller's tutelage to read and write. And behold, what I saw was fraud after fraud. The fiction courts, you have violated every trust there is. You have no trust. You have no trust with my claimants, my contracts, or anything else. If you proceed any further with this nonsense, you will find the consequences will be quite severe. I make it very clear to you, I will control the Navy to make sure these things don't happen, because the Navy is a naval organization, and they've been with me to the day that I have a naval. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I know that code as well. And they're there to protect those people that have blood flowing through their navels. If the Navy does not participate, perhaps it's too large a task, then I'll create one myself. And for those people that know me, know that I follow through. I keep my word. The other document is a comparison document, which is a simple registration of a car. I thought I'd use this because you need to see this. You need to understand the same fraud goes on, whether it's a house or a car, or that matter, as tragedy stands, your own children, who are nom de guerre and all capitalized. It should move the very heart of what you are. It should move the very pit of your stomach. It should cause you to vomit this vulgarity that takes place. I don't think I'm being too severe in my language when I tell you these things should make a person sick to their stomach. So this is a registration of a car. And what does it say in front? In that blue area, which is another box, where therefore it's a different game. What does it say? This document is not proof of ownership. My. It looks like that you are just a tenant of that car. If it's not proof of ownership, where is the proof of ownership of your car? Who has this proof of ownership? Certainly isn't you with your document. Who could it possibly be? Who could possibly control in this country, albeit the DVLA? I wonder who controls, who owns that vehicle. Even though I paid for it, even though I service it, even though I get parking tickets and so on and so forth, metaphorically speaking, because I haven't driven for over 10 years. This document is not proof of ownership. Ask yourself again, where is the proof of ownership? If you don't have it, who does? Did it occur to you to write to the DVLA? Did it occur to you to write to the people that you registered the vehicle over to? Because that's what registration means. It means you are surrendering it. Did it occur to you to write to the DVLA or the current department, whichever country it is, in all 195 countries of the world? Did it occur to you to say, hey, I don't seem to have ownership of my car. It says that I do not have proof of ownership. Can you tell me who is the owner of this car, and can you provide me with that document? What do you think will happen? Am I going to cause a tidal wave here? Ladies and gentlemen, the things that I'm telling you are representative of less than 1% of what I know. Less than 1%. If I was to reach a whole 1%, I promise you I will shut you down in ways that you cannot possibly imagine. But I must not allow my anger to get away with me. United Kingdom. Well, the document says United Kingdom. United Kingdom is not England, and it is not Britain. United Kingdom is a registered corporation. When the four nations came together, yes, they're called the four nations, when they came together to form a corporate instrument under unification and called itself United Kingdom, with their own United Kingdom flag, which is another way of publicly displaying that it's a double cross. Double cross it is indeed. Who can now doubt that, since history speaks so loudly? On number 26, what does it say? It says the name of the person, which is written in all capitals, that they are the registered keeper. Like a gameskeeper, like a groundkeeper. A keeper just simply means that they are safeguarding it, looking after it. But you are certainly not the owner. Otherwise it will say owner, like own up. Ladies and gentlemen, these things are in front of your face. And since you live in your home in such a precarious documented evidence that you are not who you think you are, and you are not the person that owns the things that you do, these things should cause you a great deal of alarm. It should cause you to take action, but do not riot. Do not do anything stupid like violence, but use the pen to control yourself instead of the sword. There are other people on this planet that have much bigger swords than you. Remember that. We have a psychological condition on this planet called passive-aggressives. Passive-aggressive is just another way of saying these people perform some of the most vilest things on paper, like poison pen letters. And they do this in all manner of ways until they gain some sort of a power over you. And they do it so often that you accept it as part of a normality to accept the all caps name through your letterbox, and therefore making contract with you, because your letterbox is an offer to the entire planet to contract with you. But do not kill the messenger, the letter man, the letter woman, the postal carrier. Do not kill that. Go and sort out this trust relationship that you don't know anything about. So many of my students just collapse that trust position by showing their live life claim, whether it's on Facebook, YouTube, or whatever the social medium is, and the FBI and the various organizations, including Secret Service, pick it up. That's one of the ways that they safeguard themselves in this, shall we say, corona period. Keeper, number 28, just in case you are confused, quite literally means that you are not the owner. Can we agree upon that? Can we agree upon that a zookeeper is not the owner of the zoo or the animals or anything else? If we can agree upon those things, then we have agreed upon two things. And if we can agree upon two things, we can agree upon three things, which is the all caps name has a trustee attached to it. And it is your choice whether to stay in a trust relationship or not. Number 29. You are asked to give yourself a title, and it looks like it's compulsory. Well, that's somebody forcing you to give a title. I didn't know you had a title. I didn't know your mum named you, or your dad, Mr. Oh, here's Mr. Baby Jones. Mr. is a subordinate name. The Arabs have one as well. and so do virtually every culture. These are the ranks aboard a vessel, and it's a subordinate position. That is why a female sailor will not be called anything but Mr. Sue, Mr. Allison. That's what they're called. They are gender neutral, because a vessel does not recognize anything except talent and qualification, what they call an able seaman. Don't let people give you a title, because title takes away your name. I have a position as a Chief Federal Postal Court Judge, as a plenipotentiary judge. My titles, well, might be put on paper if I owned land and etc. Like a title to a car, like title to a yacht, a vessel. Those would be my titles because they would be linked to me. And what does a title mean? It means title. If you are going to give yourself a title, ladies and gentlemen, give it as a qualification. I hold a captain's license. I can use that as a qualification, as a position, as well as a title. My choice. I control it. I will never allow people to take choice away from me. Number 30, which is a signature. What happened to that wonderful Old English word of autograph? That means it's a graph of your autonomy. Why did they talk you away from it? So you do not place your autograph, your graph of your autonomy. That's all it takes, ladies and gentlemen. This is your God-given seal. Your own punctuation, how you write your name, in upper and lower case, giving the designations that is recognized as mine globally, gives you the position to say that you are in control of yourself. Autonomy, a graph of your autonomy. A signature is essentially nothing more than an artistic piece of writing. And in artistic law, it is known as cursive. Cursive means it is the language and the writings of the dead. Dead people. Cursive writing. Cursive, as in curse somebody. It's called cursive. Joined up writing is called cursive. What more do you need to know? I think the evidence that I've given you all point to one thing. You are not owner of your car. You are not the owner of your children. You are not certainly the owner of your house. Even if you've got lands and farms, or the hundreds and thousands of people that lost their farms soon as they paid off the mortgage. Because once you paid off the mortgage, you've stopped paying rent. And if you stop paying rent, well, you need to be kicked out, don't you? And is that what happened? Isn't that what happened? You have a way of fighting back. You have a way of placing the autonomy of your graph on paper. We show you these things. I certainly had to go through all of these things to be able to get you mortgage free. You are now in the era where it's more important than any time in history that I know of that you pay your own way. Find it in yourself to realize that the more handouts that you take and you ask for will cause you even more pain. You remember the lectures that you see in my website about Stalin and the chicken, the squawking chicken, as Stalin plucked it alive, threw it in the ground, and then began to feed it. And the chicken just shook itself off and went back, feeding from the hand that tortured it. Your governments, under democide, under fictitious conveyance of language, including your treasuries and etc., have lied to you on a profound level. Learn to generate your own money. Learn to pay your own way in life. Your governments are there to provide you with a service. Force them to provide you with a service. In terms of debt pledges, who needs a debt pledge in your life? As I said, ladies and gentlemen, the things that I have shared with you today are less than 1% of the things that a federal judge knows, or particularly a Chief Federal Postal Court judge, as well as the other Federal Postal Court judges. Their knowledge is far greater than any of your Supreme Court judges, because we provide forensics on a document, mathematically certified, and you cannot argue with science. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for listening to me. I hope that I've given you the message of hope that you are not powerless and that you have a way out. My website has knowledge and documents in there which people tell you don't exist. I was the first one to show you the names and the bank accounts of the people that you worship as gods. Just as I'm the first one showing to you by name that your fiefdoms sold you out. You need to stop and correct them, because once a chief has lost the faith of its people, you have a violation of contract. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Until next time. Bye-bye now.